Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Waldvogel, Senior Vice President of Strategy and International Development with Daily Farmers of America, Executive Global Daily Platform, to discuss agribusiness, security of supply, and sustainability. Jay, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thanks for the invitation. Looking forward to talking.
And Jay, tell us about the Global Daily Platform and the motivations behind founding the organization, including leading multi-international partners that are involved.
So the Global Dairy Platform is made up of some of the leading dairy companies in the world. Started about 15 years ago, founded in the basis that there are some challenges the dairy industry was facing that were common globally, and either too big or too complex for any one company or country or region to solve. So it's eventually grown out to the point now we have members around the world. Many of the leading dairy companies you would recognize are participating in the Global Dairy Platform.
And tell the audience what we might not have known about dairy's impact here in the United States and around the world. How have you maintained security of supply against the constraints of COVID-19? And how do you support smaller farmers at home and abroad?
So if you look at the global dairy industry, I think that's where the first mystery arrives in terms of the size and scope and complexity of what the industry is. There are currently around the world today 1 billion people whose livelihoods depend entirely or significantly on dairy. It's more than 130 million dairy farms around the world, nearly 40 million of which are run by women and the families that they support. It's more than 125 million jobs that are direct related, whether you work on a farm, work on a processing plant, market a dairy product. All those roles and jobs and the families collectively amount to 1 billion people, serving more than 6 billion customers around the world. So incredibly impactful. And incredibly diverse in terms of how it operates. You mentioned the scale of farmers who milk a handful of cows in India to those who milk thousands of cows here in the US. And in the US, while the numbers are a bit smaller because of the consolidation, more modern industry, you're still talking about millions of people who rely on the dairy industry beyond the consumers that it reaches.
What are the projected goals of the Daily Nourishes Africa initiative across East Africa?
So Dairy Nourishes Africa is a program put in place by Global Dairy Platform. And it comes from two different directions. If you look at Global Dairy Platform, our efforts in the past have largely been on science-based initiatives. What can we do to help prove out the science of the nutritional quality of dairy, whether it be protein or other ingredients? What can we do to support the science behind sustainability? Dairy is sustainable not simply because we have farmers and you should trust they look after the land, but because we're actually measuring what we're doing in terms of sustainability. And looking for a place we could actually prove that out, go someplace in the world that would benefit from dairy and execute on those. Actually think not from the bottom of what dairy can do, but what are the issues facing a certain geography, in this case, East Africa, Ethiopia, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda. And look at what the problems they are and try and solve them through initiating dairy, stunting, malnutrition, the impact that has on education, the women that run those dairy farms, how you can empower them, how you can build an economy on the back of a dairy industry, showing all the benefits that you can generate in one place.
How does the Global Dairy Platform work to help realize the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals?
So there's two different directions. The DNA project, Dairy Nourishes Africa, is one example. So that's a tangible, large-scale initiative that actually shows how we hit Sustainable Development Goals, whether it's poverty or hunger or equality, youth opportunities, biodiversity. Those all sit behind that program. At the same time, the Global Dairy Platform members around the world, which represent about nearly 50% of the global milk, are reporting into a program called Dairy Sustainability Framework. And that measures on 14 different metrics and has been measuring for some time the performance, familiar ones like greenhouse gases, water utilization, but others like soil nutrients, biodiversity as an example. So we measure, track, and report those to show how we're improving. And tangible, hard examples. In the US, from the years 2007 to 2017, driving for some of those initiatives, you would have seen that US milk production grew nearly 20%, but over that time utilized 30% less water, nearly 20% less land, and nearly 20% less carbon. So tangibly measuring what we're doing to hit some of those goals.
And Jay, what is the call to action your organization would wish to emphasize to the greater international investing community? How can we help grow dairy's billion-person community?
I think if you go back to that point of the sheer size and scale we are now, the impact that we have, and if you think about the challenges facing the world, whether it's how you feed a population of 10 billion, how you maintain a healthy population with purpose, with objectives, dairy can and does play a critical role. You talk about COVID as an example, now hitting East Africa. The ability to know that the highest quality food is the closest to you, that supply chain is as short as it can be, that you can build an economy on the back of that resilience, that daily cash flow you get, and grow out to other things. Dairy plays a really critical role. And it is a growing industry. It's not an industry that is in decline. Around the world, we're still growing at 2% a year, still finding new consumers, still finding new products. And the thing I would ask people to consider is, you can transform the world. You can do all these things you want to do to help make the planet a better place, to help make people better off, to actually help humanity by turning what is already existing better. Radical transformation through radical improvement. Taking an inefficient small farmer and making them an efficient small farmer. Taking somebody who lacks that resilience of food and making that food security right available to them, and building long-term resilience. Dairy serves that purpose. As a long-term history, a long-term future.
Jay, appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks.
My pleasure. Thanks for the time today.
You got it. And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.